Before we get into today, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up of what's coming this weekend. We don't talk a lot of Major League Baseball here on the channel. Actually, I never talk Major League Baseball, but I saw a story yesterday about Major League Baseball moving their All Star game out of Georgia. I think it was probably going to be in Atlanta over completely political reasons. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I think I have found out why these sports leagues are going woke. And so I just want to share it with you guys, see what you guys might think of my theory of why Major League Baseball, the NBA, a little bit the NFL has gone woke the past year or two. But today we're going to talk about my New Orleans Pelicans. I am so tired of the New Orleans Pelicans being in the news, being in the headlines for all of the wrong reasons. If they're not in the news for another losing season, which is completely unacceptable with the talent they have on the roster, then the Pelicans are in the headlines for Lonzo Ball trade rumors. I have been railing against trading Lonzo Ball for months now. Trade deadline has come and gone. Lonzo Ball still on the roster. I was hoping at that point that the Pelicans were going to make a late season push for the playoffs and finally get some positivity going around this team. Yet here we sit, a week or so later, and the Pelicans are once again in the news for something negative. This has been a trend for this franchise for the better part of a decade. Mismanagement, unorganized. The Pelicans are just a gigantic mess. JJ Redick is highly respected throughout the NBA. I have followed his career since he was in college. When he came out of Duke and went straight to Orlando, JJ Redick was nothing but a spot-up shooter. That was it. He was actually a liability on the court, which is why Stan Van Gundy barely used him his first couple of years in the league. But JJ Redick worked hard, developed his game. He developed into a nice role player. I'd even call him a star. Not a superstar, but JJ Redick is a star in the NBA. Players respect that type of work ethic, that type of improvement. So JJ Redick has earned his respect in the NBA, which is why he's had such a long career. Now, my point in telling you all of that, because he is so well respected, when JJ Redick reveals the types of things that he revealed on his podcast on Wednesday, players around the league are not going to just write it off as bitterness. They're going to listen to it, and a lot of them are going to believe it. It was known before the season that JJ Redick's days in New Orleans were numbered. He's an aging veteran. This is a young roster not ready for title contention just yet. You knew at some point Redick was going to request a trade out of New Orleans. For a couple of reasons. One, he wants to play for a contender before his career ends. But the main reason, he wanted to be on a team in the Northeast so he could be closer to his family. He, his wife, his kids, they live in Brooklyn. Not exactly close to New Orleans, just in case you didn't know. And with all the COVID protocols going on, it's been difficult for him to get home this season. Before the season, JJ Redick goes to David Griffin and Trajan Langdon, and he asks for a trade. Either to Brooklyn or another team in the Northeast, the Celtics, the Sixers, whatever. David Griffin tells him to come down to camp in New Orleans for 1 month. And if things aren't working and he still wanted to be traded, they would get JJ Redick in a situation that he preferred. JJ Redick said that David Griffin gave him his word, not only at that point, but at multiple times throughout the season, that he would take care of him, get him somewhere that he wanted to be, closer to home. Now look, let's go ahead and get this out of the way up front. It is not David Griffin's job to find the most attractive destination for JJ Redick to end his career. David Griffin's job is to put together the best roster possible so the New Orleans Pelicans can compete for a championship. That's what he's supposed to do. Catering to JJ Redick, getting him closer to home, that is not David Griffin's concern. An NBA player with more pedigree, they might be able to demand something like that and actually make it happen. Dwight Howard, for example. Dwight Howard, at the peak of his popularity, was able to get the Magic to send him to the Lakers. And he really didn't give him much of a choice. He stated publicly that he wanted to go to the Lakers, which limited the Magic's options in the whole scenario. But you get my point here. Dwight Howard ended up in LA. JJ Redick doesn't have that kind of pull. He's a damn role player. The hard truth is, he is the type of player that's going to get traded to the team that makes the best offer. If JJ Redick had pulled a Dwight Howard, said he only wanted to go play in Brooklyn, and the Nets didn't want him or didn't want to give up enough for him, then he would just simply be stuck in New Orleans or out of the NBA altogether. It's as simple as that. So that's the reality of the situation for a player of JJ Redick's caliber. Now, with that being said, if what he is saying is true, and I believe it, then this is really bad for the New Orleans Pelicans. This franchise is already one of the dumpster fires in the NBA. Their reputation is not great. David Griffin was brought in for the sole purpose of revitalizing this franchise. Gail Benson brought him in because he was able to turn the Cleveland Cavaliers, another NBA dump, into world champions. Everything that LeBron James wanted, every player that he wanted, David Griffin made it happen. This situation with JJ Redick is a bad look for David Griffin. I know the NBA is a business. I know his job is to look out for the interest of the Pelicans, but remember that line Al Pacino says in Scarface, right before he whacks out Frank? All a man has in this world is your word and your balls. And that's true. All you have is your word. If David Griffin told JJ Redick that he was going to look out for him, if he told him that he was going to look out for his best interest, get him closer to home, then that is exactly what he should have done. David Griffin has since come out and said that he couldn't make something happen with the Nets or other teams in the Northeast. So he really thought about JJ Redick's career and his family and thought that Dallas would be the next best place for him. Dallas. Geographically speaking, Dallas is farther from New York City than New Orleans is. And the Mavs aren't championship contenders. Yes, Luka Doncic is a special player. Porzingis is great, but he can't stay healthy. My point is, the Mavs aren't close to title contention right now. David Griffin made this decision because it was the best decision for the Pelicans. It benefited the Pelicans the most in the short term. However, this was a short-sighted decision because the long-term impact, it could be detrimental. I watch damn near every Pelicans game. I've been telling you guys something is off with this team for a while now. Some will say that they don't look like they enjoy playing together. I don't think that's the problem. I think this young team is losing faith in management. Perhaps it started with the hiring of Stan Van Gundy. I don't know. I like Stan Van Gundy, but the problem with him, his antics start to wear on people after a while. Look at what happened in Orlando. He had a young team down there. But after a couple of years of Stan Van Gundy constantly yelling at him, they begin to tune him out. I believe the same thing is happening in New Orleans, and it happened in rapid fashion. Now you add to that what just happened with JJ Redick. You think Zion Williamson's not paying attention to all this? You think Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, every other player on the roster is not paying attention? Once you lose the trust of your players, it is over. Trust in any relationship, business or personal, once it's broken, it is the most difficult thing to get back. Sometimes you can't get it back. My biggest fear when Anthony Davis was leaving New Orleans and the Pelicans lucked into the number 1 pick and drafted Zion Williamson was this franchise finding a way to screw it up. I felt better when they brought in David Griffin, I really did, but I'm starting to have my doubts with him. I'm starting to think that we were sold a false bill of goods. I mentioned earlier that he bolstered his reputation turning the Cavs into champions, but he had LeBron James. Now, I know he's only been in New Orleans for 2 years, but this team has taken a step backwards this season, and we're not seeing the progress on the court that we should be seeing at this point. The Pelicans are inconsistent. They're mediocre, which is the kiss of death in the NBA. This offseason is going to be pivotal for the Pelicans. Zion Williamson has made it known that he wants to continue playing with Lonzo Ball. If David Griffin finds a way to screw that up, it'll be another instance where trust will be lost between players and management. All of this is exactly what I was afraid of. The Pelicans have a rich history of striking oil and screwing it up. Happened with Chris Paul, happened with Anthony Davis, and we're beginning to see the early stages of it happening with Zion Williamson in this current roster. It it just feels like disaster is looming once again in New Orleans. All right, what do you guys think? Am I overreacting to this JJ Redick story about David Griffin? Or do you agree? Is it a really bad look for the Pelicans? If these types of things continue to come out, these types of antics continue, will New Orleans lose Zion Williamson? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com. KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys possibly tomorrow, sometime this weekend.